back, everyone. Sorry for the little technical difficulty, but we're ready to go. So like I said, if you're gonna want to draw with me, have some paper, a pencil, something to color with. I'm gonna do some crayons. You can use colored pencils, markers, Crayolas, oil pastels, chalk pastels, whatever it is you have, it's fine. Painting, something to paint on, brushes to paint with, napkin, water. Here, I'll show you. Here we go. Napkin to dry your brushes off on, water to wash your brushes, and then, of course, a palette. Yes, I'll repeat the paint colors. So palette is something slick that you can mix your paints on that obviously won't get soaked up into the paper. Piece of glass, a paper plate, that sort of a thing. Colors for today. I'm going to use a darker blue, white, a darker brown, and then green. Whoops, I'm dripping paint. Glad the dog's not in here because she would eat it. All right, I forgot that paint was a little bit runny. So, all right, paint brushes. You're gonna need 3 of them. You're gonna need a big one, a medium one, and a little one. Okay, so the big one I use is about a 1 inch and it's flat. Okay, size of my hand. This one here is called this number 6 round. Okay, so it's got a rounded point rather than a flat point. And then the little baby one, this is I think a 0 round, but just a tiny detail brush, anything will work. All right, push this back up here so you can see beautiful Avery Point. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna start out a little bit differently this time. I'm gonna have both the drawing and the painting drawing together at first, just kind of lay out what we're gonna do, okay? So if you're gonna draw on canvas, I'm gonna use a piece of chalk. You can use a pencil, something very light. You don't want it real dark, so don't use a marker. That's something you could paint over. If you're gonna be on paper, obviously draw with pencil, all right? So first thing that we're going to do is sort of measure out a little bit. Bet you didn't think you had to do math during art class, right? Anyway, just kidding. You're gonna measure out about 1/3 of the way down, okay? So about 1/3, I'm gonna put a little line. This is gonna be the difference between the sky and the water. So just draw a line, horizontal line, that's gonna break up our sky and our water, okay? And I'm gonna do it on both here. It doesn't have to be exact, okay? So that's the difference there. Now, this is what we're really gonna draw, and this is why I wanted you to do it with me now. Hopefully you guys can see that. Okay, I think you can. The land mass, the rocks, okay? So you guys probably all saw the photo. There's lots of rocks. It's a very rocky shoreline over there. So we're gonna start just a little bit down from our horizon line here, and we're gonna come down at a slight angle, sort of bumpy, very not straight, so very imperfect, okay? I know it's hard for a lot of people to be imperfect. We always want to make sure this is exactly what we want it to be, but it's better if you're imperfect, okay? All right, so we're gonna come down, and now anytime the bottom of our rocks where it hits the water, it's flat. So I'm now gonna come back with just a straight line to the right. I'm gonna have another little rock pointing out into the water and another straight line back. So here, I'm gonna show you close up. Okay, so I came down with this line and then I did a perfectly horizontal line back a little. I'm gonna have another rock sticking out a little bit, another flat line back, okay? And we're gonna continue this process very irregularly, okay? You're not gonna have anything perfect in nature, so we're gonna make this sort of imperfect too. I'm gonna have another little rock here and come back. So I'm gonna have 3 little bits kind of coming into the water, okay? Now we're gonna have this bunch of rocks that are really gonna protrude into the water. So I'm gonna have a bump. I'm gonna do sort of this thing again. Does that make sense? Where we started, we're gonna do another fairly decent sized mound of rocks. And then again, down to a point, and then come back to the right. Another one. This one. Let's see here. So we're right about here right now, okay? So we came down to the right, down a little bit to the right, jog it in to the right, jog it down to the right, down and to the right. So we're right here, okay? So now we're gonna do another little jagged down and to the right. It's the same concept over and over again. And to really make this look the best, you wanna make sure that this point here is a real fine point, as if you took it and pinched it and pulled it. Does that make sense, I hope? All right. Again, you guys have any questions, go ahead and throw it in the chat bar and the girls will verbalize it to me here on film, okay, on the video. So can you draw this with pencil or paint? I want you to do it with pencil first or chalk, okay? I mean, unless you're really comfortable and want to do it with paint, but I'm doing it with chalk, all right? Depends on your level of comfort and experience painting. Now we're gonna have a really long one that's going to come bouncing down here. We're gonna, this one right here, okay? So this kind of looks like a cove. But this one here, we're gonna bounce out and then come back. And again, do it a little bit again.
Hey, Erin, can you bring the, can you bring it a little bit closer so people can see?
This one here, this one, is that better?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Okay. So it's, again, it's the same motion over and over again. Some are just a little bit longer and then a straight line back, a little one here, kind of a bigger one here, little one here, little, and then another big one here. Again, this should be more flat. And then a bump that way, okay? So it looks kind of funny. Maybe like, looks like clouds maybe. And then this, we're just gonna jagged, I'm going left and right here, sort of all the way down to there, okay? So down here, it's really like a smidge. It's not even a finger width high. It's really close to the edge. Now don't forget, we're gonna have grass all in front of this, but we at least want to know where to put our rocks versus our water, all right? And here, this line here, we're gonna add one more line. So when I painted this, I stopped the rocks right around here, all right? And then I did sand down here, which is where the grass would grow, okay? So about at this line, you're gonna continue it over here. So this is gonna be my rocks. This is gonna be my sand, eventually will be my grass, okay? I'm gonna draw it over here again for all of my friends that are on paper. I'll bounce it down, come back, a little one, come back, a little one back here, come back, medium-sized one, come back, little one, little one. Again, most important thing is to make sure the bottoms are all flat because that's where the water is hitting the rock. So the water is always perfectly leveled. So that's what this straight line at the bottom is, the leveled water around our rocks. All right, and then this one we're gonna do there. So it's a little different. I don't have as much area here as I do here. That's okay, not a big deal. All right. So now we get to paint or color. I'm gonna start with my painters because we need the paint to dry in order to get on to the next step. So if you're with us and you're drawing, just hang tight for a minute or two, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. We'll get to you while the paint is dry, okay? So for all of my painters, I'm gonna pick up my big flat brush. It's about a 1 inch wide, pretty flat. Now this painting and drawing is all about texture. Now what do I mean by that? It's how you apply the paint to make it look like what we want it to look like. So I'm gonna explain this here on this first before we jump into it. The sky, it's pretty smooth. So I'll do really, really, really long brush strokes, edge to edge. And I'll just keep doing edge to edge. I don't really do small brush strokes in the sky. I do really long, smooth ones. And that's how you'll get a nice smooth skin. Listen to me, sky. Yeah, that's how you do skin too, but that's okay. Water, when we get down to the water, we're gonna do it in 2 steps. An undercoat, and then on top, we'll do the texture. Either way, we definitely need to go left to right. Water always looks better when it's painted if you do left to right brush strokes. So the first color, we're just gonna put down sort of a medium blue all the way down to here. Then we're gonna come back, and I'm still using this brush, okay? And again, I'm gonna go through this as we go, but I wanted to give you guys a heads up first. We're gonna do left and right, little tiny brush strokes, left and right, left and right, left and right across all of the water, okay? And that's gonna be the texture of the water. Now, texture of the rocks. If you notice, it looks, let me see, looks totally different. It's a bunch of scribbles, right? Or a bunch of little jagged marks. So for this one, I literally did a bunch of jagged marks. Notice how I'm doing the brush, okay? I spin it around, do small little brush strokes. And I'm gonna go back and forth between this brush and the medium brush to get that. But this is totally different than the nice long, or the little jagged left and right, or the long brush stroke here. But hopefully you're getting the idea. Different brush strokes will give us different texture. Now the bottom, this is gonna be with our medium and our small brush. And we're going to be, all we're gonna be doing is flicking from the bottom to the top. Flick up the whole time, okay? So this painting, like I said, all about texture. All right, now, painters, Big Daddy brush. 4 colors on our palette is blue, a dark blue. Can't tip it too much, it'll drip. White, brown, green. Okay. So our sky is going to be shades of blue. Push it back up here so you can see the top. Now, the top of the painting is a little darker than by the horizon line, and we'll get to that. So I'm gonna mix a pretty blue, and I want you guys to do the same. Anytime you're mixing a color, put it somewhere else on your palette. Don't mix all of the blue into all the white. If you do that, you won't be able to control the percentages of one color to another. We want to really control it. So I'm going to grab, I'm going to make a nice sky blue color, not too light, because the horizon, it's going to get lighter. There we go. Nice medium blue color. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to put just one band of it up at the top here, right across. Remember what I said, we're going to do nice long brush strokes. Once you get the color down, fill in all of our little spots here.
Hey, Erin, we have a question.
Sure.
They asked if the brush should be wet first.
You don't have to, depends on your paints. I typically don't. These paints will turn really drippy really quickly with this particular brand that I have. So I don't like to use extra water, but you can if you want to. If you want more of a watercolor look, absolutely go ahead. So I know that's not really a definitive answer. I don't, but yes, you can. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, shut the phone off. There we go. All right.
Can you show the, can you go through the colors again really quickly?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
So, yep, not a problem. So we've got a darker blue, white, brown, I'm sorry, I'm going to be dripping here in a second, and green. Okay, kind of exactly what you see there. Okay, so we've got green grass, brown rocks, blue water and sky. And then of course, white to lighten it up. Pretty simple palette today, which is good. Okay, so we put down a nice medium blue, left and right, really long brush strokes. And while this is wet, I'm gonna now pick up some white and blend some white right into the bottom of it. And it's going to lighten up my sky. Because I still have blue on my brush, I didn't wash my brush, and it's still touching some of the blue that's on the canvas. This is how you get a nice, pretty, and gentle ombre effect that goes from a slightly darker color to a slightly lighter color, okay? So I just keep grabbing a little bit more white as I go, so that way by the time I get down to my horizon line, it's a fairly light blue, or at least lighter than when I started. Again, nice long brush strokes, left and right. You can keep working it to get it nice and smooth. also what I want you guys to do as you're painting, I want you to do your edges. So anytime you get to the side or the edge of your canvas, go right around. So this is my nice medium blue that I started with. And I'm going to paint my top and my sides to match the front, all right? So as I get down here, it's gonna be a little bit lighter. There we go.
Hey, Erin, I have another question regarding the colors.
Sure.
So someone has a kit that has multiple blue choices.
Yeah.
One is ultramarine,
Yes.
one is verdian, and the other is PTHALO. I don't want to mispronounce
Halo,
that.
yes, I would use the ultramarine.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's what I did on this original one. And then I ran out, so now I'm using something as close to ultramarine as possible. If you're using watercolors, which part of the painting should remain white? When I do watercolors, believe it or not, I will add on top of the watercolor like a white crayon or a little bit of white acrylic to get this part, because this is not white, it's more of a blue. This is a pale brown. So there's really nothing on here that's gonna stay sharp white other than this bit. So if you're with watercolor, when you're coming around here with your blue, maybe leave a little bit right there at the water's edge and see if that works for you. If not, I'll always paint it back in. I tend to use watercolors a little differently. I kind of use them like acrylics, if that makes any sense. But have fun with it. So yeah, the only spot that has sharp white is right there at the edge near where the water is hitting the rocks, okay? Right here. Hopefully that answered your question. All right, so you've done this. Oh, my blue is more of a pale baby blue right now. Is that okay, or should I add another color to it? No, you don't have to. If you like it, leave it. We just want to have it a little darker at the top and a little lighter at the bottom, okay? And again, there's no real wrong way to do this, which is kind of fun. All right, so now with our water, we ended up with our sky being a little lighter, and now our water is going to be a little darker right at the horizon there. Okay, that's what's going to differentiate the two. So go ahead and mix another nice medium blue, a little darker, maybe this color, maybe a little darker than that color that we started with. And you're going to come across here with your slightly darker blue, not as dark from right out of the bottle, all right? That's really, really dark. We don't need it that dark, but a little darker than your sky. So you're gonna take it straight across. I'm using my daddy brush, sorry guys, I call it Big Daddy, Medium Mommy, and Little Bitty Baby. So if it comes out, I'm sorry. The big brush, and I use it like this, okay? So instead of going across this way and pulling it, I'm gonna go across this way and draw it. If you're more comfortable using a different brush, go for it. There's no wrong way to do that. But I tend to use the daddy brush a lot, the big one. But again, it's whatever you're comfortable with. We'll put in the land masses, these little islands, or I don't even know what that is, the other shoreline, the other end of the shoreline there, a little bit later, okay? So now I'm going to be painting the water. And again, it's very, very important to go left and right, not up and down, and don't do crisscross, okay? Again, this is all about textures. We need to fill in all of this water. We're going to have it a little bit darker up here, a little bit lighter down here. So similar to how we did the sky, we added a little white as we came down. That's what we're going to do with our water. Now, just go ahead and kind of fill it in. If you don't, if you accidentally go across onto where our rocks are going to be, not a big deal. We'll cover that over with our white and brown paint. This is just to give us an idea of where to go to. And at this stage, you will see some brush strokes. And that's okay. That is going to add to the feeling of the water, right? The texture that I was talking about. So I'm just doing lots of little minus signs. We're gonna come back in here and add a little bit of white to it every once in a while. We want this water to be lots of different shades of blue. Hopefully that makes sense. By that, I mean, if you look here, I'm gonna add a little bit of white as we get down here, and we're gonna have some white brush strokes, left and right, minus signs, if you will. Oh, a little too dark. Grab some white, smudge that out. Okay, again, don't forget the bottom of our rocks is gonna be pretty flat. And make sure we always go left and right. Now, when we're coloring this, we're going to be doing the same concept, left and right, little minus signs. Your edge does not have to be perfect by the rocks. Like I said, we'll play with that later with the brown. Just wanted to get sort of a idea. A little bit lighter down here. So it's getting close to the shore, so it's lighter. It's not as dark or not as deep. The water is not as deep, so it's not as dark. And if you do see your brush strokes, your little white brush strokes or blue brush strokes, leave it. You want to see the brush strokes on this one, okay? Just like when we do the rocks, you want to see all the little scribbled edges. This is not a hyper-realistic type of a painting style. This is more of a impressionistic type of a painting style. All right. Go left and right, left and right. And again, like I said, if you're more comfortable with a different brush, you can do that. Down here, I'm gonna get a little lighter, getting close to the shoreline and getting close to where our sand is gonna be. Okay, so I'm gonna let you guys have fun doing this, and I'm gonna get over to the drawing and same concept, all right? So if you wanna add, which I just did by accident because my paint was dry, go back and do another layer of left and right brush strokes. You can, which is what I just did by accident, but that's okay. A happy accident. They realized my paint dried that fast. So this is where we're going to get that texture that I was talking about. Little brush strokes, little left, right, minus signs all the way down. And I'm using sort of a lighter blue, adding some white in there. And it just gives the illusion of water. See how imperfect and back and forth it goes? It's all different shades of blue. The important thing is it's very horizontal, left and right, versus diagonally or any other direction. And it's, like I said, multiple shades of blue. Okay, so you guys continue doing this, making it nice, and give you a close-up of this one. Nice and streaky. That's what we want. Lots of streaks. Okay, we'll go back in and do the white at the very, very end. So don't worry about this white here. I just want you to worry about the water, black back and forth, all different shades of blue and white. Okay, all right. Anytime you're done with your brush, go ahead and throw it in the water. All right, so now for my drawing. Again, this is all about textures. How are you going to apply the color? I'm going to push this back over here. All right, so I'm going to use a crayon, and how I apply the color is going to change during each section, Okay, so I'm using, like I said, a medium blue. Okay, you can see it. These lights are a little. There we go. And for the sky, you're just going to go with the side of the crayon, and you're going to go left and right. So anytime you color, there's two things you always need to think about. Okay, one is how are you going to apply the color? Right now, I'm using the side. And how hard am I going to push? How hard you push determines how dark the color is going to be. So I can do very, very light. I can push harder. I can push really, really hard and get a really, really dark, dark color. Okay, so how hard am I going to push it? Light or dark? I'm going to start lightly. Okay, and that's what's going to be at the horizon. And then I'm going to start adding another layer to it, or pushing it a little darker the higher up on the sky that I go. Again, I'm doing nice long brush strokes or crayon strokes to get that smooth sky that we have up here. Okay. Very, very lightly. Okay, so I got that nice kind of ombre look with the drawing. Water, how am I going to apply the water? Same way we did here. I'm going to first of all start with the medium side of the crayon just to get rid of the white. Okay, again, left to right. And then after this, I'm going to add texture to it. So just fairly quickly go around and just put a little base of blue down on your water. Okay, here we go. Okay, just again, get rid of the white. Then after that, we're going to use the tip of the crayon and we're going to do minus signs. Again, to emulate these brush strokes that go left and right, little minus signs. It's going to be a little darker up top, so a little heavier hand up here. If you have white crayon or chalk, you can absolutely add that right in on top. If you have a slightly different color blue, a lighter blue, like a cerulean blue maybe, you can add that into it. Here, I'll show you. So here's kind of a cerulean blue. This is more of a cobalt, not quite an ultramarine. But if you wanted to add some of the lighter blue in, you can. That was like my chalk color. Okay. But you're going to cover the entire water area with this texture. Same thing that they're doing on the painting, you're going to do on the drawing. And this is how you're going to achieve it. Again, most important thing is left and right. And as we get down here, I'm going to do a little lighter pressure. I don't want it as dark. Not as many, maybe. Lighten it up a little bit. Okay, so it's more heavier, a lot more minus signs out here at the horizon line, a lot less up here. Add a little bit of that light blue just to lighten it up, give it a little variation. I like to do more than one color per section anytime I'm coloring or painting too, really. Okay, if you really want to make it stand up and pop, you can add your white. Check this out. You can see, you can see that. Hang on. And the white kind of smudges all the colors together and gets it to blend and makes it look more like a painting. It's really kind of cool when you get the white to do that. Can you see you can see the difference for where I have the white here and where I don't have the white here. Two participants raised hands. I guess there's a question. Check on you guys. Is there the same way to stay with the same blue and not add in another blue? Yes, so it's all the pressure that you use. So are you, first of all, so is it Leanne or Drewski? Okay, so are you painting or coloring? You can, all I did for painting was add the blue with the white. You're painting, yep. So you wanna change the color. You don't wanna change the color, that's what you said, if I recall. Same blue and not add another blue. Yeah, so that's what I didn't add another blue. This is all just the same blue. All I did was add white. Okay, so you don't have to add two different blues. I did for the crayon just because it makes it look a little more interesting. So this is blue and white on this. Okay, good. All right, so let me just get some more white in here just because I think it looks cool with blue and white. Again, left, right, left, right, left, right. You guys are gonna be sick of me by the time I hammer home the texture on how you get it. Let's see if there's any other questions. My blue is more of a pale blue. Oh, I already answered that. That's good, good, good. All right, seems like we're up to date. Fabulous. So that's how you're gonna do texture in the water for crayons and texture in the water for acrylic paints. I'm gonna give you guys a minute or two here to kind of work with that before we get on to our next step. I'm gonna go back to the painting. We're gonna do our rocks and our sand. Just wanna make sure I have all the questions. Let's see. I hope the choppy video is taken care of. It might just be that one person. Okay, good. Hard to see what I'm doing on paper. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing on the paper now.
Erin, how should they clean their brushes?
Okay, proper way to clean your brush, good question, is to put it in the water and paint the bottom of the can. Watercolors, you can pretty much just swish the paintbrush, but with acrylics, you really have to push it out of the bristles. So I like to really, like literally paint the inside bottom of the can. Give it a good heavy push, you know, run around there on the bottom of the can or the cup, and then dry it off. If you're noticing, like I just noticed, when I dried it off on my napkin, I can still see some blue. So I'm gonna go back and wash it again to get all of the paint out of the bristles. It's kind of a, these paints don't come out real easy. You really have to agitate the bristles to get it out. What color? Blue for the water if I'm coloring. So I used that medium brown. I have crayons here, but I don't have any paper on them. Wait a minute. Nope. Yeah, I don't have paper on that blue one. So it's more like a, well, the cerulean was that lighter blue. Okay, this is more kind of a cobalt or ultramarine. Those will work well. Just a nice medium Crayola blue. You know what I mean? Sky blue color. Try it out like I do here. Try it out on the side here. If you like the color, go for it. Let me wash my brush. All right, much better. I'm going to dry it off. I'm going to put it over here for now. Grab another napkin. Okay. So now we have a nice texture on our water over here. Oh, back over. Okay, so nice. I like this.
Erin, when you're painting left to right, if you're seeing some splotchiness, what should you do?
Splotchiness. Let's see. Sorry on the question, but I'm noticing when I'm painting left to right. Right side seems to have less paint, look a bit, you mean over here, it looks a bit splotchy. This is where we're going to come in and do our rocks. So Nicole, is that what you're talking about? Over here it looks splotchy by the rocks? Yeah, okay, so that's all right. You can either feather it out like I did here. Mine looks pretty splotchy too, right? And now this is where we're gonna come in with the rocks and come over. Basically, we're gonna just a little bit cover over the rocks on top of the water. Hopefully that makes sense. Will that help you, Nicole? Okay, you're welcome. All right, and it looks like someone's using pastels, blending the paper with your fingers. Yeah, you can absolutely. As long as you do little tiny left and right strokes with the pastels. Actually, are you using oil pastels or chalk pastels? Let's do that. What color are we using painting? For the brown, we're doing brown and white for the rocks and also the sand. The new pastels, because does it say on there? I think new pastel has both oil or chalk. Does it say oil pastel on there somewhere? I don't know if I have mine. Does it feel like a chalk, like a sidewalk chalk kind of a chalk, or is it more oily? Oil pastels, fabulous. So what I would do for oil, these kind of react like oils. These heavy duty crayons that I have. So you don't have to blend them in really, as long if you push hard and you do that brush stroke or that stroke left and right with your blue and your white, you don't even have to use your finger. The trick with oil pastels is to layer them. So you're gonna wanna start with that base that we did with that, just a nice medium blue across the whole thing, left and right, and then come in and do your little minus signs back and forth. And then you'll see like the layers. It'll start to look like some of Van Gogh's paintings if you do it right with the little brush strokes or the little, yeah, minus signs, I guess is the only way to do it. Burnt sienna or burnt umber, either or will work. Okay, I think I'm using burnt umber. Yeah, I have burnt umber. I had to think for a minute. All right, okay, so hopefully I got all you guys. Coloring, yep, all right, gotcha. So the rocks, we're gonna start with a medium brown, kind of like we did the water, the first layer first, and then we came back and did the texture, right? Same thing here. We're gonna do lots of little brush strokes with this medium brown sand color. And if I wanna show you guys, look really close at it. You do see all of the brush strokes, all right? You can see literally the brush, the details of what the brush did, okay? It's gonna be messy. It's supposed to be, all right? Now, another thing I want you guys to think about, you're sitting 12 inches from your canvas. You're never gonna be this close again. You're gonna see it from across the room. So if you look at mine right now, it looks pretty cool. You would never know that it looks like a hot mess up close. But this is what you're seeing and this is what you're painting. You're this close to it. So this is what it's gonna look like up close, and that's okay. Best way to get a new perspective on your work, anytime you're doing it, you can do it multiple times throughout the evening. Take a picture with your smartphone and look at it on your phone. It'll shrink it down enough where you'll go, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And that's the view you're gonna see from across the room, is what you see on your smartphone, okay? Just keep that in mind. So I'm gonna start with the big brush. Depending on how it goes, I may move to the medium brush, but I'll tell you that as I go. I can't remember how I did it up there. I think I did this brush, and then I moved to the darker colors with the other brush, but I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, medium brown. So pick your burnt sienna. Nope, sorry, burnt umber, my bad. Burnt umber. Knew it was wrong as I was saying it. You're gonna mix a nice medium brown, okay? Our sand color is gonna get even lighter than this, but for now, I just wanna lay down a general shape. And I'm gonna basically redraw what I did originally with chalk. Okay, repaint, redraw, and then the rest of it, I'm gonna do little short, if you notice, it's like this. Little short, tiny little squares, rectangles, jagged. And again, I'm gonna make sure I'm very careful to get a nice fine point out there by the water, right? Comes back, same thing, down an angle, right? It came down here and then we did a horizontal line back. Then we came here, horizontal line back. And it doesn't have to be the exact same line that you did originally, just to get the idea. And if you want, as you're going, as it's wet, you can go ahead and add in a little bit of white into some of it. You notice here, I just added some white paint. I just did sort of this first mound, right? This first hill, whatever, pile of rocks. Small, little. And if you notice, I'm moving my brush around. So sometimes I'm going sideways, sometimes I'm pulling up, pulling down. Again, remember texture. This is all about texture, right? So I'm gonna get, while my brown is still wet, I'm gonna blend in a little bit of white. As it gets down toward the shore, it's gonna get a little darker. That's where the rocks are wet. So I'm gonna put some more brown down over here. Okay, so we've got sort of lighter brown, beige on top of this hill, this mound. And it's gonna come down and it's gonna get darker the closer to the water that it gets. So that's what I'm gonna do now, is put in some darker. So I'm gonna go back and forth and do lights and darks kind of simultaneously while it's wet, because I wanna make it blend. So as it's at the water line, it's pretty dark. So there's your dark brown. And again, lots of little tiny brush strokes. If this brush is too big, feel free to go back to the smaller one or that medium brush. And now I'm going to go back to the medium brown over here and just keep doing the same thing, okay?
Hey, Erin, can you go over the rocks again, please?
Yep, absolutely. So we're going to start with a medium brown color. You're going to start up here, and the top is going to be hit by the sun. So it's going to be a little lighter of a brown. You're going to redraw what we started with. Okay, so our drawing, if you remember, was sort of bumpy and kind of jagged coming down. And as we come out to here, out to the water, we need to come back. So it comes out to a point and then it comes back horizontal, perfect horizontal. This is where the water is hitting the shoreline, the rocks. So hopefully you guys remembered how we drew it, right? Bumpy, bumpy out here. I'm gonna do another one, right? We did this multiple times all the way down. So here's another one, kind of bumpy out and then to a point, and then it comes horizontal back. But I'm not going really long brush strokes, and I'm not doing minus signs. This time I'm doing jagged little, so it almost makes a square like that, layered on top of each other. So all of these brush strokes, with the exception of the edges, because we gotta get a nice flat edge there, are all gonna be really jagged. Remember, that's the texture we want, a real jagged rock. The bottoms are gonna be a little darker paint. Put this down here. Okay, the top up here is gonna be a little lighter, has more white up there. So when it hits the water, when the water is lapping up on the rocks, it makes the rocks darker. So we gotta use a darker brown for down here. All right, so straight line across the bottom. Hopefully that you guys got that. I'm gonna do it again. If you remember, we did lots of, when we drew it, we did it lots of times, the same concept over and over, how we drew it. All right, is that a little better? I don't wanna come down because I want you guys to see that too. So we're gonna do that medium brown. All right, so I've got white, dark brown, and then a medium brown. I'm going to use that medium brown, which is like a mixture of, I'm going to say maybe 60% white, 40% blue, or brown, I mean, 60-40, mostly white. And I'm going to come down on an angle, really jagged into the water. Then I'm going to grab some darker paint and draw that horizontal line to the right. And then in here, I'm going to make a hot mess of brush strokes. As I rotate my brush around to give it that texture of rocks. As you can see, it's totally different than the water, and it's definitely not smooth like the sky. Okay. I'm going to do it again now. Right here, this little small one. We had a little small kind of jagged point coming into our water. So I'm going to start in the rocks here and come down jagged, right? And then perfectly flat horizontal line back into the rocks. And then I'm going to grab some darker brown, make it darker down there. Go back to the medium, come out, let's add some more rocks here. And then bring it back. And then one more time with this big mound here. Okay, basically duplicate what we just did here. So I'm going to make sure that I'm touching that blue, maybe even going over the blue a little bit to hide all of my blue edges. Okay. Come down, grab some darker brown to do your horizontal line back. Let's fill this in with medium brown like this. All of these different, again, it's just texture, rock texture. We're gonna come back in and do a second layer of this, so don't worry. It doesn't look like that yet, okay? We're just getting rid of the white of the canvas. Okay. All right, go over the rocks from the start. Oh, I think I did that. That was 5 minutes ago. Okay. So it's basically the same thing over and over. So we did the big one, then we did a little one, and then we did sort of a medium one here, slightly smaller, a little baby one here, and then we did a big one here. I'm gonna do a medium one or a baby one right here into water again, making the bottom darker, okay? I'm gonna go back to that medium, do a little one here. I'm making sure each time I'm covering the edge of my blue because I kind of feathered out my blue sort of, it got, like I said, feathered out over here. It looks kind of weird between the blue and the white. So I'm making sure I'm covering that weirdness with my rocks. Again, a little darker at the bottom. And then small little brush strokes down to where our sand is going to be, which is right there. And if you remember when we drew, this bottom part is all sand. So this color, most of it, if you look here, guys, most of it you're not going to see at all. You might see a wee little bit popping through the grass here or here, but for the most part, it's completely covered. So we're just going to do mostly white, just a hint of brown. I might need more white paint here in a second. Here we go. And you're just going to feather this into the water. So you don't have an absolute sharp, sharp edge between the water and the sand. It kind of is feathered in a little bit, meaning as you're coming off to the side, you just kind of flick it. And our goal here is literally just to get rid of the white, make it a neutral color down there for our sand, okay? And again, most of that, like I said, is gonna be covered with grass, so you're not even gonna see 98% of it. But we don't want white because the contrast between the grass and the white is going to be too great. So we wanted to tone it down a little bit by putting this kind of medium tone color on it. Okay. As you guys are working on your rocks, I'm going to go back in and add some more dark toward the bottom of the rocks. Same exact kind of scribbly, messy, jagged look here. I'm kind of just scribbling it in. I'm using a mommy brush. And if this, what this does, because we have a medium color there now, and if we scribble, literally scribble, I want to show you, scribble a little bit of dark in there, it gives the illusion of shadow on the bottom of the rocks. All right, let's see, I apologize. I have to jump off for a board meeting. It was just recently said anything. Oh, you're welcome. I'm sorry you have to go. Okay. All right, so again, we're going to just add in a little bit of scribbles that sort of blend in with the light brown that we have going on. It's going to be a hot mess, guys, and it's supposed to. Okay. You're gonna have some areas that's a little lighter brown. Some areas are gonna be a little darker brown. So you're just gonna kind of fiddle with this and add a little bit of shadows is what we're doing here with this darker brown color. And you're gonna smudge it and smear it so the edges are not major sharp, or like you're not gonna have a big rectangle over here, so to speak, okay? We don't want that. So if you do have that right now, wipe your brush off a little and kind of scribble it in a little bit to blend it in, okay? And so that's more of what we want. We're gonna add a couple more in here. It's fun to do this and push and smear the paint when it's wet. So that's why I'm having you do it right now as opposed to later. We could do it later too, but it's more fun to do it now. Okay, so just kind of blend in. And again, you want it to have medium brown, slightly darker brown, darker brown. So all these different shades and values of brown going on to give the illusion of rocks in the shadow of the rocks. Like I said, we'll come back in later and make it, the water come right up and into it. But for now, we got to get our rocks scribbled in, really lots of angular lines. Let's see. If you want to go back and add slightly lighter, like what I'm doing right here, you can do that. The tops of the rocks, right, that are getting hit with the sun.
Erin, can you do another close-up of the picture?
Yeah. So, again, lots of scribbles. And you want lots of different shades of brown. And again, it's just brown and white. So we started with the medium brown. So maybe it might be 50-50 or 60-40, you know, 60% white, 40% brown. And then we added lots of angles, kind of scribbles. And the bottom of all of these horizontal lines that come back to the shore, those are also going to be very dark. And if you have too dark of a line, for example, you did this and you have too dark of a smudge or a scribble, dry your brush off a little bit, and we're going to just kind of blend in, scribble it in to sort of blend it out, I guess, kind of. Hopefully that makes sense. So you want to add, again, just texture and the illusion, the idea that these are rocks. Very imperfect, lots of shadows in there. And it really is scribbly, very scribbly. I just noticed my, trying to draw from the side, my lines are all going up. That's funny. All right, so let me see. Fix this. There we go. This one is better. This one especially. And I'm not even drinking. Ah. Got it a little better. Not too bad. This one is going back on an angle too. And I didn't mean to do that. It should be flat. That's what happens when you try to draw from the side, from an angle. You paint on an angle.
Erin, we have 2 more questions. What do you do if the brown paint is not dark enough? And also, can you just show the little scribble you're doing with the dark paint?
Yeah, absolutely. So if your brown that you're using is not dark enough, it's already kind of a beige. First, let me go back there. So the brown paint is not dark enough. So is it Shreya? What color did you start with? Is it a dark brown out of the bottle, or is it a light brown out of the bottle? Because if it's dark brown out of the bottle, like this, hang on. If it's dark brown out of the bottle, this is my burnt umber. Light brown out of the bottle. Okay, so you might want to add a little bit of black to it. You can also add, if you wanted to give it a hint of marine, You might be able to put a little blue, a dark blue. It depends, but I would add a little, try with black first. Hopefully that would do that. And then the scribble with the dark. All right, so let me get back to a lighter color here. Hang on, I will do the scribble, but I gotta prep an area first. Okay, so if I have this really light area here, okay, hang on. I need to demonstrate this. Okay, so I have this big light area here and I wanna add some shadows of the dark scribble into that. I'm gonna grab with that medium mommy number 6 round brush. And I'm just gonna add in a little bit. I like to roll my brush, I don't know if you guys have noticed, up and down a little as I go to add in sort of a scribble. You can do it literally a scribble, literally like you're drawing. I'll tend to just go up and down that way, and then I will sort of blend out my edges to make it more imperfect. That makes any sense. I'm gonna do it again over here. Add a little bit of dark shadows here. And this one I'm kind of scribbling more so than rolling my brush on that one. Hopefully that makes sense to you. If you guys want to practice it on the side, you can do that. But it is a hot mess of scribbles. Okay. You notice up close, it doesn't look like anything special. Right, so while you guys are playing with this, I'm going to jump over here and do the drawing with our paper friends, okay? All right. Sorry, I keep hitting my bookshelf that the camera's on. All right, so same concept over here. We're going to use, I have 2 different shades of brown on over here. Because it's crayons, it works better if you have the color already built in, okay? So I'm gonna use sort of, it's almost a mustard kind of a color, so you guys can see that. And a brown, which is just like this one, kind of like an umber, okay? So these are my crayons that I'm using. And I'm gonna do the same thing. Start with a very light coat of that darker brown color. And I'm just going to, literally going to do this and scribble. I kid you not, I'm scribbling the side of my crayon down my rocks. Up here, I'm gonna do it a little lighter pressure, so it's a little lighter because that's where the sun is hitting. Again, being sure that the bottom of my rocks where it hits the water is pretty flat. But I'm not doing a nice smooth color like this. I'm doing a scribbly color. And then down here in the sand, I can do a pretty smooth one because again, it's going to be covered later with grass. So the sand, just a very simple, smooth. Up here, however, like I said, we're going to do some dark. Now, in here, I'm going to do my darker color scribble with the edge of my crayon, and I'm going to create the same illusion that I have here. I'm just going to stick with the dark brown for now. Okay, so at the very bottom, at the water's edge, you're going to push a little harder to get a slightly darker color. The rocks over here are wet, so they're dark. Again, this texture that you're going to get, the same thing with the oil pastels. You're going to do hard, kind of straight edge, kind of scribbles, not real soft, airy, feathery sort of a motion. You're going to do hard, jagged kind of marks because rocks are jagged. They're more rough and sharp. Again, the darkest color of the brown is going to be right where the water comes up and laps on the rocks. And you can also, if you wanted, add some white to the top where the sun is going to hit in some areas. Close up on the drawing. All right. So there we go. Bunches of scribbles. It's a big mess. All right. So like I said, I started first, where am I? Right here. The light brown scribble with the side of the crayon. I then came down and pushed harder to get it darker toward the bottom of the rocks. Okay. Oh, is it Nita or Netta? I'm sorry you can't stay. Have fun on your meeting. Make sure you, whoops. Here we go. Make sure you finish your drawing. They're going to send out a video for you. You can finish it later, or your painting, and definitely share it with us. So enjoy your meeting, and thank you for coming. Thank you. All right. Close up on the drawing. Hopefully that close up on the drawing that worked for you. It's a hot mess of scribbles. All right. There you go. So now you guys are talking. So hopefully I can help you out with that modeled look. Okay. All right. So I think we're fairly good to go. So the cool thing is I'll help you get back to the rocks a little bit in a few minutes. We can still go on with the painting. We'll stay away from the rocks for now. We're going to do the land up here. We'll do the sailboat, and then we'll come back to the rocks if you guys have any questions, and then we'll do the grass at the end. Okay. So hopefully.
Can you do a close-up of the finished painting again?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here we go. There's the rocks of the finished painting. Well, here, you want the full thing? I don't know what people wanted to say. So there's the full painting, and the rocks. Again, it's just a bunch of scribbles with a bunch of different shades of brown. Okay. And Emily, feel free to text that to me if you want, so I can see what they're talking about. Might be easier. Absolutely. That might be easier than trying to post it on here. So this is the one that I just did today of the scribble of the rocks. Okay. Again, I have lights, I've got mediums, I've got darks, and that's the whole concept, is you want it to be little different bits and pieces all over, little tiny, think of it like little tiny rocks. So you're painting a bunch of little tiny rocks all the way across. Okay. All right. So this next step should not be too hard while we're waiting for Leanne to send the Leanne. I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Shouldn't be too hard for you to do this step. We're just adding literally a line to the sky, or the horizon line there, okay? So that up there, I made that color with brown and a little bit of blue. All right, so I didn't want the same color brown as the rocks down here. So I added a little blue to it, brown and blue, and it's a darker blue. Okay, and it's basically just a line right across the horizon. There's a little space in the middle, and then another little line here. And I did it with the teeny tiny baby brush because it's really far away and it's a really small patch of land. Okay, so this is how tiny my brush is. Okay, turn my ringer back on so I can hear the picture come in. Okay, so I'm gonna mix a brownish blue, a little bit of brown, a little bit of blue. Kind of looks like a really deep blue jean color, like that really deep blue. Okay. That's what the brown kind of does to the blues. Okay. So with the baby brush, you're going to, now I did it, let's see, this is about the middle of the canvas. So in the middle of the canvas, we're going to do a little line. There we go. Okay, do you see kind of where that lands? Okay, so about in the middle of the canvas. This is the middle. I'm going to go a little bit left of middle. Very thin line. and I'm gonna make it bump and jump just a little bit. I wiggle it just a little so the top of my, let's just call it an island for ease. I think it's actually the Connecticut shore, but that's all right. I thought the shore of the Connecticut River. This landmass is going to be a little wiggly at the top and of course flat at the bottom. Okay, so just one little land mass, sort of in the middle of the canvas. Hang on, let me just check this. Hang on. Okay. So we're now going to do the same thing over here. So leave a little bit of a space. Baby brush, that bluish brown paint. Leave a little space here. And then we're going to do a little line, sort of bouncy. We don't want it perfectly straight. It's kind of like trees. So the tops of trees are never perfect straight line. You see that? Okay. And then make sure the bottom, I need to rest my hand. Hang on, there we go. Now the trick, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the trick with a baby brush, whenever you're doing any kind of detail, when we get over to the sailboat, this is especially true. Hold your baby brush like you're holding a pencil, and you're going to draw with it like you're drawing with a pencil or a crayon. And you're also going to want to rest your hand on something as you're going. If this is dry, go right on it and rest on it. If not, you can, give you a little trick here. Hold another brush or something straight edge, touch it to the edge of your canvas. Okay, so I'm not touching anything over here, but now my hand is going to rest here. And now I can have a little bit more steadiness without ruining whatever is here, okay? But you're definitely going to want to shore up your hand so you can control your paintbrush a lot better. And the bottom is going, let's see who that is. Okay. All right, Emily, just got your text. Let's see. All right, so Leanne, I don't know how to say your name and I'm sorry about that. You have the right idea. That's exactly what you're doing. You need to, I would add just a little bit of the medium color, not the brightest, not the lightest color and not the darkest color, but do the same exact thing with a little more of that medium color. So add some more scribbles to it because you got the right idea, you just stopped too soon, if that makes sense. Okay, so add some more lighter color going on in between it as well. And try to do smaller scribbles instead of bigger scribbles, do smaller. Okay, all right, hopefully that'll work. And now, what is the color of the island? Blue and brown. That's what I did, blue. You can do straight up brown if you wanted, it's not a big deal, but I wanted to add it a little, the picture that we had, it kind of had a bluish hue to it. So I did blue and a little bit of brown. And don't apologize, you don't need to say sorry, it's okay. All right, I'm just touching up my edges. We go, okay? And then definitely, you always want to make sure your brushes stay wet. If you let them air dry, you'll ruin the brushes. The paint will dry on it and it's plastic, you're not going to get it off. Okay, so the sailboat, same color, the blue and brown color. I'm going to draw it first. Hang on. All right, so the anatomy of a sailboat. Drop this again. I need to come up with a new, just get another easel. It would be a little easier. All right, so anatomy of a sailboat. I want you guys to practice this small on the side somewhere first, okay? If you don't like your sailboat on paper where you're practicing, you're not gonna like it on the canvas, all right? So I'm gonna draw it pretty big over here. You can follow along with me on your practice section, okay? Same thing with my my friends who are drawing. You're gonna practice the sailboat with us here too. So everybody right now is gonna draw or paint a sailboat. If you're painting, you can use the same color as the island back here. Just add a little bit more blue to it, okay? So it is a blue-brown. This has a lot more brown. This has a lot more blue, okay? I'm getting paint everywhere. My poor furniture. All right, sailboat. First thing we're gonna do is the hull. Think of it like a snow ski, okay? So we're gonna do a flat line. This is the top of the deck, and it's gonna curve up just a little bit, not a lot. And then it's gonna come back down and flat at the back, okay? So that's step one. Again, I'm doing it pretty big so you guys can see it, all right? Now, we're gonna have the cabin. It's gonna be sort of in the middle of the boat, and it's just a rectangle sitting on top of your ski. So we're gonna leave enough room in the cockpit for our captain. And the cabin is really in the middle of the boat. It doesn't go up into the front. It doesn't really go all the way to the back. It's right in the middle, nice rectangle. Now, the mast that goes up, the big stick that goes up, that is as high as the boat is long. That's what I was talking about anatomy, right? So take a straight edge. I'm just going to use one of my brushes. And my boat is about the size of my brush. Look at that. Okay. So now my mast is going to be off the edge of my paper, technically. Okay. And it's a little bit forward of center. So if this is the center of my boat, my mast is a little bit forward of center. And it's going to go all the way up there. Okay. Like I said, it's about as high as it is the length of the boat. I'm trying to get it straight up. Mine wasn't exactly straight because I was sitting on the side. Sorry about that. Okay, a little better. So now, what they call the boom, the part that comes down here that smacks you in the head if you're not watching. Right, Mom? I know my mom and dad are on here, and my dad's a UConn grad, and we used to have a sailboat. So the boom goes perfectly parallel to the boat, and it goes almost to the end. Okay, so almost to the end. Not quite. It doesn't overhang it. It's in just a smidge. Okay. So now this is the mainsail. This is always attached to the boat. You'll never get this. You always will see this either up or you'll see it bunched up down here. I'm gonna take this down for a second. There we go. Okay. So now the mainsail, you can start at the top and draw. Mine is not a perfectly straight line. If you notice, this would be a perfectly straight line. I curved it ever so lightly, just a little bit. And that would be the mainsail, okay? That is, this is crooked. That's what it was. Much better. Okay, so that's the easy version. If you want to be a little bit more difficult, you can put up the second sail, okay? I call it either the jib or the jenny. Mom, you want to text in? I can't remember. So it's the front sail. Okay, this one doesn't always go up. Not every sail. Anytime you go out, it's not always up. Depends on where the winds are coming from if you need it. Okay, if you do want it, it's going to start a little bit down, maybe about a third of the way down your mast. I'm going to start maybe about there, maybe a quarter of the way down, third of the way down, okay? And it's going to end up here. So this, it's again, not a straight line, it's a slight curve down. All right, because this here is going to be, there is an actual, just so you guys know, there is an actual piece of wire that goes from here to here. And this is the sail that's blowing in the wind as it's coming around, okay? So there you have a close-up of what it's gonna look like. And now the inside of the sail is also a curved line, but this one goes right back and it looks like it's attaching to, it's not, but it looks like it's attaching to the mast, the big straight up stick, okay? So it's gonna end up here. I'm gonna start here and then a gentle curve down to there. All right, so it's kind of making like a really tall, thin letter D right in here. You're gonna see the sky right here. Let me see if I have a photo. Where's the photo? Oh, there it is. Yep. Okay, so here's the photo that I worked from. Okay. So the bottom then comes almost straight out. It's almost straight across here. And then that's the sailboat, okay? So practice drawing this small, all right? I have it, if it's about 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 1/8 or 1/9. Jenny can also be a smaller jib. Thanks, Mom. It's about 1/8 of the width of the entire painting, ballpark, okay? Now, if you do it even smaller, it's gonna be further away. So it depends on where in the water you're gonna draw this. I did it a little bit below the horizon line, okay? And I'm gonna show you guys how to paint it and then color it in. So that our sails are gonna be a little bit more white in with that blue color that we have. And then of course I did a couple of dots to sort of emulate, I don't know if you can see them, a little tiny wheel and then a person's actually standing in front of the wheel. Okay, we'll get to that. All right, so that's how you draw it, the anatomy. Now, use your baby brush. It's important to use the baby brush. Dry, right off. Where are we? There we go. Okay, so now I'm gonna start with that dark blue. Blue with just a little bit of brown in it because I want to darken it down just a little bit. Okay. I'm going to start out here and I'm going to do it for me. This is a 16 by 20 canvas, guys, just so you know. And it's about 4, for me, that one is about 4 finger widths. Okay. So if I do it around here, I'm going to do it fairly close to the horizon line. Again, hold your brush like a pencil. Notice I'm holding it like I write. Okay, and I'm going to load my brush, but not overload it. So I'm going to put it in the paint, spin it, and pull it back. That way, it's not globs of paint. You don't want globs of paint.
Erin, can you just explain what color that was again?
Sure, blue with just a little bit of brown. So I'm just darkening down my blue just a little. Although you can do straight up dark blue if you wanted. I like to make things difficult, apparently, by making it, adding a little bit of brown to it. Okay, so blue, just a little bit of brown to darken it down. Holding it like a pencil, hand is resting on the water because now it's dry. I'm gonna come across, I'm gonna do my little ski tip at the beginning, at the front there. Make sure it's about right. Yeah, it's about right. All right. And with this baby brush, it's only about 2 widths. The hull is only about 2 brush widths, and it's a really tiny brush, so not a lot at the water's edge there. Here we go. Okay, so that's this. I just drew this ski. Now I'm going to draw the rectangle. Again, it's no higher or no deeper, I guess, whatever, than the height of this. Okay, just draw a little rectangle above that in the middle. Okay. There's my ski, there's my little rectangle on top. And now our mast. And again, remember, our mast is the same height as the width of our boat. So if my boat is this wide, my mast is going to go from the top of that rectangle all the way up to here. It seems tall, but that's the right proportion. Okay? So you want to draw a very thin line straight down into the rectangle. Okay. Now I'm going to do the boom, which again, perfectly parallel to the hull, and it goes almost to the end. Not quite as long as the boat, but almost. And mine happens to be right on my horizon line. So I'm not going to see the horizon line underneath my boom here. It's right on the horizon line. It's interesting. I didn't mean to do that, but there you go. Okay, so it's really kind of hard to see. Mine happens, like I said, it just happens to be on the horizon line. Yours might be a little above, a little below, depends on where you had your boat. Hey, Barbara, yes, I can show you how to make clouds and waves if you would like. After we do the little sailboat here, I'm going to show you how to add a little bit of white highlights to come into the shore, okay? And then, yes, I can show you clouds if you want to, but again, I'm going to have you guys practice because doing clouds on a dry background is totally different than doing them if this was wet, okay? But I will do my best to show you, so hang on. All right, so now you're going to grab that same color, that blue, that dark blue that you have. Maybe you have a little brown in yours, like I did. I'm now going to add white, which I need more paint. Hang on. Sorry. Okay. All right, so you're going to add white to your mix. So you're going to have, if you look here, my sail is not a bright white. That's bright white. The sail is this color that you just painted with some white in it, okay? So my friends that are drawing with us, feel free to draw your little sailboat in with pencil and then you can color it in, okay? And I'll do it again with you guys over there in a second. So we got like a light blue here. You're gonna start at the top and it's gonna be a slight curve down to the boom. You're going to color it in. Again, being very careful with your control of your brush. That's why we're doing it really teeny tiny and having the baby brush. And I'm going to add some more white into mine because mine looks pretty flat. I'm going to add a little bit of white into there. It looks kind of gray to me too. So I'm going to smudge in some white to lighten up at least this edge here. I'm going to leave it a little darker up top. I'm going to leave it a little darker at the corners, but I'm going to smudge in a little bit of white. There we go. I like that better. Okay, so it gives it a little bit of depth, okay, by having some areas like this be light because the sun's going to shine really straight through this part, but over here it might have sort of a shadow, right? So it's kind of so it's not one flat piece of triangle, right? It's not one triangle. It's going to have a little bit of depth to it. And the same thing, so I'm gonna start with that dark color again. I'm gonna do the jib or the jenny. Come down the mainsail just a little bit, and you're gonna make the ever so tiniest of lines. Now, when I say tiny and thin lines, it's all about the pressure you use. The lighter you push your hand and the paintbrush to the canvas, the tinier the line. The harder you push, the thicker the line. So here, I'm gonna show you real quick on my hand. All right, so if we do really, really tiny, just barely touching my hand, okay, very, very tiny, versus pushing really hard. Now that's just with the pressure on my brush, okay? So see how light you can go and barely touch your canvas with this line that you're gonna create your front sail. All right. And then you're going to create your back edge of the sail, which goes right to the mast, and then the bottom. So I just created a little triangle with my very thin line. And now while it's wet, I'm going to smudge in and paint it in the same way I did that. So make that light blue color. Right, so add some white to your boat color, which you probably already have it still from the mainsail. Get up and in here, put that in. While this is wet, I'm gonna smudge in some white to lighten it up a bit. Now, some boats, by the way, their front sail is very, very, very colorful. So if you wanna leave it darker or you wanna leave it a bright blue or whatever, you can. That's normal. A lot of people will decorate their front sail. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of white in here. But there are a lot of front sails that are just straight up white as well. If you guys can see me, I hope I'm not blocking you. Again, I let my...
Can you show how to paint the right sail again?
The right one? Sure.
Yes.
So, I'm gonna do it over here. You draw it out first, okay? So you're gonna take your baby brush with your dark blue, the same color as your hull, right? This color here. And you're gonna draw your line first. So draw your lines a little bit further down on that, like about a quarter of the way down on your mast. And you're gonna connect one line to the bow. You're then going to create a second line. So the back of the sail, so you're creating a triangle, right? The back of the sail and then the bottom of the sail. And then as you're painting it, I'm going to have to do it with a bigger brush here. Hang on. As you're painting it, you're going to want that this color, whatever this color is, the hull, add a little bit of white. And you're just going to paint it all in. Hopefully this will work without my paint drying out on me. I like to paint it all in first. Scrub it all in, get it all that light blue. Then while it's wet, add some white to the edge and then smudge and smear that white in so it blends in. But you have one edge of your sail that's a little brighter. Okay, so hopefully you guys got that. Okay, so it's lighter here, darker over here. It'll kind of create that shadowed effect. All right. That help, Ryan? Okay, good. All right. So while you guys are kind of messing around with that, Hang on. Put this back here. I can add in a sailboat here. So for my friends who are drawing, I would just do it with a blue, a darker blue, same thing. You're gonna do your ski in your water. Little rectangle on top of the ski. Hopefully you guys already did this with us as we were painting it and you practiced it already. All right. Ski, little sail, little rectangle on top. Mast is gonna come up. Just make sure it's the right height. Looks about right. Okay. Boom, comes across almost to the end of the boat. And then our sail. So you create, oh, it's almost like a number 4, right? And then over here, but a little bit further down on the mast, we're gonna create the front of our sail, the back end of our sail, and then the bottom. And then we're gonna color it in, okay? I'm gonna do it fairly lightly with the blue, and then I'm gonna add my white. Blend it really heavy. So this is where the oil pastels come in really handy. You can really smudge in the white and get it to look really cool if you're using oil pastels. And you might want to add a little white on the deck here or something else just to make it stand out a little bit from the water. Or might even make the hull black if you wanted to make it stand out even more, which is what I'm going to do on this drawing because it's too close to the watercolor. There we go. Get a black hull. That looks a little better on the drawing now. Okay. Then either 2 little people or a person and a steering wheel. It's literally 2 lines with the teeny, 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 tiny baby brush, very, very, very light pressure. Hopefully you can see that. It literally is just 2 lines, okay? They're so far away, that's all you would really see. And it's that darker color, that bluish, the same color as the hull. And you can put the person behind, the taller line behind the steering wheel if you want, like I did there. I did it opposite on the other one. Okay, and that's how you do that. Okay, so let's do our final steps for our water's edge, our water coming into the rocks. So here's where I'll use the baby brush, the real teeny tiny baby brush, and I will, I call it like scratching. Scratch in a little bit of white, perfectly horizontal every single time. You never want to go down on an angle. You never want to follow the rocks. If the rocks kind of come down at an angle, don't follow the rocks. Always pull it out perfectly horizontally into the water, okay? And it's little tiny minus signs, kind of almost a flick. You're not having a lot of paintbrush on your paint on the paintbrush. So clean and dry baby brush. You're gonna grab just a little bit of paint, okay? Again, not a lot of paint, just a little bit. There's no extra globs, okay? And I'm gonna go left and right, back and forth, very, very light pressure. And so I will run out of paint and it gives me sort of a haze. I'll show you what I mean by that here in a second. All right, so here's a haze. See how it's see-through? Okay, so we have a bright white right here, right where it's gonna hit the rocks, and then the rest of it is sort of just a haze. It's a just kind of a small little residue of paint, if you will. But it makes a big difference, okay? So I like to get my very first brush stroke. I'll start right at the rocks. I'll start right here and I'll pull it to the left. If you are right-handed, it might be easier for you to do it this way, okay? And pull it to the right along that dark edge. Again, make sure you always go left and right. Very important. Okay. So now the darkest or the most white will be right where it's gonna kind of crash right into the rocks. Okay, but not all of it is bright, just kind of right in there, like the foam, right where it comes in and hits. I need to stop leaning on this bookshelf. Keep wobbling the camera. Sorry about that. I just realized that. All right, left and right. I'm pulling from right to left, very, very light pressure. Okay. Lots of little minus signs. I'm going to do this one little area. I'm going to bring it up to the camera and show you, and then I'll show you guys again down here. So I'll give you another tutorial. And yes, Paula, just white. This is your really bright white with your baby brush, very teeny tiny, very light pressure. So you don't want to get huge globs of this. This can go up and like literally the white can go right on top of the brown a little bit. That's where the water is literally crashing onto the rocks in some areas. You can hear my hand. My hand is dragging across the canvas, making a noise. Okay, so left and right, left and right, left and right. Now, if you want more waves in your water out here, like there was in the photo, you would do this same thing all the way through. Let me get the photo again. So here, there's the photo. As you can see, it's pretty bright white here. Again, all of these, if you look at them, if they're a line, it's a horizontal line. Out here, they're teeny, teeny, teeny little horizontal lines. If you wanted to do more white out there, okay? And that's how you would do waves. But this is how we're doing the white crashing right here. And I'm gonna do some more over and in here too, okay? But for the person who asked me how to do waves, that's how I would do it. Very, very, very little. It'll take you a while, and that's okay. Baby brush, a little bit of white paint, and it's the same concept that I just did here. Little minus signs, and a lot of times you're gonna run out of paint and it'll just leave like a haze of white, like right here is sort of a haze. That's okay. That adds to the illusion of the water, okay? So I'm not gonna take the time right now to go through this whole thing. It would take way too long, but this is how you would do it. If you wanna keep going up here, you absolutely can. And if it gets too white, go back in and add more of the blue into it in the same exact way. Little minus signs with this little tiny baby brush. Take your time, not a lot of paint. Okay, so I hope that helps that question about waves. All right, we'll add some more. I'm gonna finish down here, so if you guys wanna watch me again, I'm doing very, very, very light pressure. Okay, if you want to come out here and do some, you can. I'm almost running out of paint, as you can kind of tell, because there's not a lot of lines being put down. And I'm not putting a lot of paint on the brush to begin with. All right, let's just add some. Again, most important thing here is to go perfectly horizontal, not on an angle. So if your rocks have a slight angle, that's all right. You still have to go straight with the white because it's water and it's balanced out, right? It's always perfectly horizontal. Unless it's a storm, and then it's a whole other ballgame. But in this picture, it's horizontal. Right up to the edge there. Right at the corner, every corner. that real point. That, remember I said that the point, it's like you took the rocks of brown and you pinched it and pulled it out. It's pretty white right at the edge there. And it's gonna, right where the water is gonna smack up and splash up the rocks. So kind of randomly throughout the water's edge here, the rock's edge, you're gonna have some brighter areas. Some areas are gonna be not bright at all, but you see sort of a haze of white. Again, if you end up having too heavy of a hand, like that area right there, I'm gonna let it dry. I might leave it. But you can absolutely come back in with this blue, make this blue again, and just add some more blue on top of it. So if you highlight the sun on the waves, this is how you would do it. Since the sun is really high up in the sky right now, you won't see, if you say you had a sun here, then you would see the reflection of the sun below it. But since this picture, the sun is way up overhead and it's more of a general light, there is no direct line of a reflection of the sun. Barbara, I hope that helps you. But this is how this looks like, the reflection, like I showed you in the photo, the reflection of the sun. You just do teeny tiny back here, right? That's a reflection of the sun all back there. You do teeny, 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 tiny. Again, little minus signs with this baby brush, and I would do it probably more of a dry brush. So you load your brush, and then load your brush up a little bit, and then you're gonna wipe off almost most of it. And then you're gonna come and do very lightly, so you never get a chunk of white. You'll just have very little bits of highlights. I'll do it over here, I'll show you. You just take your time and do small little, up here it's gonna be smaller little strokes, down here it can be longer, but this is what you're gonna do. When you have not a lot of paint, Barbara, on your brush, this is what it'll look like. When you have more paint, it'll look more like this, a little brighter. Hopefully that answered your question for the highlights. And I'm gonna continue adding more highlights over here, down here where the waves are hitting, or the water is hitting the rocks. So I want you guys to all do this too. Now, if you have oil pastels, you're gonna do the same exact thing, okay? On yours, little tiny minus signs all the way hitting into the rocks in the water, little left and right, left and right. Important to be perfectly horizontal. And you guys can spend a lot more time on this than our 2 hours together. You can just keep going on this if you wanted to. And you can go back and forth with your blues and add some darker blues in here too if you wanted. But for now, this is pretty much what I have up there. I only did it right around the shoreline here. I didn't really go too crazy. Again, I wanted to try and keep this in a 2-hour time frame for you. How am I doing? Oh, 10 more minutes. All right, we might go over a little bit, and that's only because it's going to take me a few minutes to paint, but the directions on how to paint, you'll have it in no time. So if you have to go, no problem. They're also going to, I believe, Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are going to send out the replay in case someone needs it?
Yes, we'll be sending that out to everybody.
Perfect. All right. So like I said, guys, if you have to go, you can catch the replay. And the last step here of doing this, I'm going to do the grass first, and then I'll come back, Barbara, and show you how to do some clouds. It's the same process over and over and over, that flicking. So it's a really simple step. And you guys can take as long as you want to do it to add to it. All right. Yay. Okay. So you guys can continue doing this as much as you want, and trust me, you can sit here for hours doing these little brush strokes to add white onto your water. So you guys know what it looks like from far away. This is what it looks like close up. Okay, it's literally just a hot mess of horizontal little minus signs, and you can literally keep on going and keep on going and keep on going and keep on going. Yeah, so that's that. So the last step and the last part of the directions is the grass. Now, if you look here, I had green and brown in my grass. I think I may have even added a little bit of that mustard yellow color. So if you have a mustard yellow, you can throw that in there too a little bit. But the way you get grass is literally with the baby brush. Although I started, you know what? I started with the mommy brush, a medium mommy brush. Where is it? There we go. I started with this size brush, okay? And then I went to, there we go, that size brush. Okay, so I started with this one, and then I ended up doing a little bit with the baby. The grass starts at the bottom. You're gonna start and you're gonna flick it up. Now, the grass over here is this high. It's hard to see it, hold on. All right, over here, it's like this high. Over here, it's taller, okay? So it kind of comes down a little bit. So you don't want the same exact size grass all the way across every quarter of an inch. That's not how grass grows. It's a hot mess of just lines. And some of the lines are going to be straight. Some of them are going to be on a slight angle to the left. Some are on a slight angle to the right. But you're going to get used to holding your paintbrush and flicking. Flick up, flick up. What this is going to do, heavier pressure at the bottom. And as you flick it, it's less pressure. So you have a fine line and almost no line at all at the top. So it's going to be wide at the bottom. And if you get your flick right, now my flick is just my fingers, okay? So as it's coming away from the canvas, it's gonna be a nice fine point at the top of the grass. That's how I got the grass to be pointy as opposed to blunt, okay? So you're gonna start with green. I don't like my green, just so you guys know. If you've painted with me before, you know this. It's green oxide that I'm using, and I'm not crazy about it. I like to add in a little bit of brown, just to make it more, it looks to me more realistic. More of an OD green, right? From the Army, I guess. I don't know, I just like green with a little bit of brown in it. All right, so you're gonna flick. You notice I'm flicking. Some are gonna be thin, some are thick. Okay, I'm gonna show you again up here. And I'm gonna go back and forth between green and brown. And I keep my hand, I don't go closer to the canvas. I just barely touch it at the bottom. So that way when I flick it up, it's going to have a nice fine point at the top. That's it for directions. You just do this over and over again. You go back and forth between green and brown. Some are going to be a little longer. Some are going to be, like I said, some go sideways. Let me show you the brown. All right, some are going to go sideways. Some you're going to see through. You notice? Some you don't see through. We're going to go across this whole thing. And over here, we're going to go up a little higher, right? Higher on the right, a little bit lower on the left. So start with your line. And then you're just going to keep on layering it. So add some more. I'm going to go back and forth between green, a greenish brown, and brown. Put it down. Put it down here. So we're going to cover over, we're going to put enough grass that you're not even going to see your sand, really. You see it popping out ever so little smidges here or there, that's fine. But you're going to have enough grass. I'm going to show you the original here in a second. You're going to have enough grass that's pretty thick, okay? Now, if you get a whole bunch of all the same kind of color, you can let it dry a little bit and then come in with a slightly different color with the baby brush on top of it to give it a little bit more differentiation. I'll show you that in a second. Hang on, just get solid. Some up and to the left, some to the right. Again, I'm just flicking. A very controlled flick, but it's a flick nonetheless. And over here, I'm gonna do, I do it taller. And then over here, I'm gonna then layer it. So then I'm gonna come down a little. paint is drying a little bit. I gotta get some water in there. So if that's happening to you, if your paint's getting a little bit thick, you can add just a drop of water to help it be more fluid and have a better consistency. It'll paint easier. You won't get chunks of paint like I just did. There we go. So flick it. And once you get the handle and the hang of flicking, it'll go pretty quickly for you.
Hey, Erin, we have a question. They were wondering if you just hold the painting a little farther up to the screen so they can see
This
what
one? Sure, the one that I'm working on?
Yes.
All right, so I'm literally flicking my paint, my hand. It's up here, I'm gonna start it here, and then I'm gonna add some more layers by coming a little bit lower. And this is green with brown. You can add a little yellow in there if you'd wanted. Try not to hit where the camera is. And if this brush is not doing it for you, you want a finer line, you can absolutely do it with a baby brush. It'll just take you a little longer to cover. So this is also something that you guys can do after our 2 hours together that you don't really need me for. You're just gonna keep layering and keep layering and keep adding color. I'm doing 3 colors right now. I'm doing green right out of the bottle, which I hate. I hate this green. I'm doing my green mixture, which is green and brown. So a darker green, I guess. And then I'm also adding in straight up brown every once in a while. So I'm just going back and forth between the colors to fill this all in. And what I'll probably do, and what I would suggest you guys do too, let it dry or use a hair dryer, dry it up, and then add another layer. Go back and add some more grass. And again, the texture of how to get the grass is that flick that I'm just showing you here. Flick, flick, flick. And some are gonna go to the right, some are gonna go to the left. Make sure that this bottom edge is pretty heavy, covered in almost completely with green or that green brown, so you don't see the sand color. How's that? There we go. Okay. And then if you're not liking that as much, which I kind of like it the way it is, but you can absolutely use the baby brush too, okay? And do that same trick. You'll just get a smaller line with your grass, a thinner line, that's all. Add some brown in here. And that's all you have to do for grass. And again, this might be something that you want to do more than once. There you go. Hopefully you can see that now. This is the original. This is one coat of grass, which looks okay. I might go back in and add another layer. Same exact thing, same exact concept of that flicking. And the texture you get when you flick, it looks like grass. So you guys learned how to do 4 different textures today. Now, my drawing friends, same thing. You're gonna flick the exact same way. You're gonna use green and brown to flick. Okay? Some flicks to the right, some to the left, but you're gonna go back and forth between green and brown and cover in this entire section. So little grass over here. And just take your time and you're gonna keep on trucking. Keep on going. And if you do their flick, you're gonna get a nice point at the top of the blades of grass.